All right. Check one, check two. This is it. Welcome to the Cannabis Coffee Hour with your host, me, Rob Cantrell, coming back at you for episode 176 of the Cannabis Coffee Hour. Please like and subscribe on your Spotify or iTunes or YouTube. Do it all. Like it across the board. Like I like you, you like me. Let's like it up for the Cannabis Coffee Hour. I have a great show for you. I'm excited to be coming through the internet electric waves to visit with you once again with some very fine cannabis, some outdoor grown. We're talking GMO, we're talking jet fuel, we're talking out the box, probably my favorite of all faves. And I have my favorite Pink Floyd coffee cup, and I have some Brooklyn Lab coffee, Brooklyn Lab coffee beans. The beans are they're from Peru. I almost said Brazil, but they're from Peru. Lots of llamas in Peru. That's what I hear about Peru. Lots of llamas and lots of Aztec sacrifices. So don't sacrifice any llamas during this episode. The coffee is exquisite. Some of the best beans out there, Peruvian and Brazil. I do like both of those beans, especially their medium roast. That's, I think, that kind of brown that's kind of what I've always been going for. But I'm not even, this coffee's so good, I'm not even using milk, no creamer, no oat milk. This is the end of the Chemex. I've switched over to the Chemex. I'm a full believer of the Chemex. It's a funky style, but you get used to it and you get high quality, and it's a super simple design. I am a fan of simple designs, and that's why I'm a fan of this podcast, the Cannabis Coffee Hour. We had a great episode last week with Joe Pera. I'm still coming down from doing shows in Buffalo. Shout out to the Buffalo Town Ballroom. That was an amazing experience. Really dope venue, man. Very cool music venue that the curators and the owners and the bossmanship have really just have a great establishment. You know, the staff was awesome, the setup was awesome, the sound was awesome, the crowd was awesome. Buffalo Bills. They love the Buffalo Bills up there, man. Buffalo is good people. I had some of my best college friends were from Buffalo, and they're some of the funniest, coolest people I know. And I've only done comedy there once before. I did some shows with Joe Pera this weekend, and the last time I did a comedy show there was with Mitch Hedberg at a theater. So I have fond memories of Buffalo. And I always like the crowd. I just knew that the crowd was going to be funky and wild, and Joe has such a nice audience. His show is so amazing and so next level. You know, I don't know, man. I think his comedy is, just something different. And that's hard to pull off. That's hard to pull off in comedy. Because the end result is you want it to be funny. Ooh. I just had some of the jet fuel. Get ready to blast off, Cannabis Coffee Club, Cannabis Coffee Hour podcast. Get ready to blast off. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and we are about to take off. That was a nice hit of cannabis. creeping in this morning hour, doing a solo podcast just for you. There's just so much to talk about. The Buffalo show was amazing, and so was the Syracuse show, and so was doing the podcast. I just listened to the podcast, the earlier one with Joe Pera before this, and it turned out great. I had to run and gun it. There wasn't a Patreon video. That was a pure sound because we were doing the show, and I'm just trying to be as consistent as possible with this podcast. And I felt bad asking Joe because we just finished doing a show, but I did anyway. And he was nice enough to say yes, and I promised to make it as low key as possible. And I listened back to it, and it sounds like we had a lot of fun, and it was pretty low key because I didn't do the video. The video is for the Patreon. If you want to see the video, not of that episode, some of them are audio, I have to say, not all of them, but not this one. You can definitely check me out, smoking out to my Marley glass one hitter that I love. I do need to clean it, but it's doing good. I had a good cleaning before. It's just not perfect, and this weed is perfect. That's the only thing about, like, things are kind of lining up and doing well. I'm getting work and I'm feeling good. But then you start to dabble in perfectionism and not being happy because this thing doesn't work out or that thing doesn't work out. So I am just trying to be on the being tip and less than the doing tip. Like that Joe Pera show, that came out of nowhere. I didn't even try to get that show. I didn't even try to. It just happened, and he needed somebody to help him open the show, and he has a TV show, and he can play these like rock venues, and he knows that I've done these kind of gigs, and I can and I was psyched to get out there, and I was in the crowd. It worked. It was just a lot of fun, man. I had a Spotify playlist that I was rocking. You can listen to my album if you're listening to this podcast on Spotify. I have a very tricky relationship with those guys right now, but you can listen to my whole music album that I self-released on Spotify called Caffeinated Dope Rhymes. And it has a song called Coffee and Weed, and then it has a go-go remix, a DC go-go remix of Coffee and Weed that I did like a few years later. It's kind of like a best, it's like all these silly songs that I've always done over the years, kind of hip hop, raps, but I also try to make it kind of legit, but also have a humorous slant to them. And Coffee and Weed was the first one, Married and Shit. But on that album, I have like some of my best jams. And then I have 2 brand new ones and a demo that I've never released before. But Give Peace a Dance, which is my pacifism, hip hop, hardcore pacifism song. And then I also have a remix of Sublime's What I Got. And that's what I did during the quarantine. A lot of comics went out there and did a lot of stand-up shows. And I'm not judging. Everybody had to make their own call. But I stayed at home and made a Sublime cover song on GarageBand and got it professionally mixed. And you can listen to it. It is out there. I have the YouTube, and I even have it legally set up that I don't get any money. It goes to Sublime, but it's their song, and I always loved it, and I got to cover it. I did it, so it's funky, and I think it's kind of fresh. Ja. Yeah, I always liked Sublime. I always like reggae. You know, I'm wearing a Bob Marley shirt now. People can say, "Oh, you're hacky. You listen to reggae and smoke a lot of pot." Well, guess what? I do, fool. It's very positive and good music. I love listening to Bob Marley. I love listening to reggae, and I loved Sublime kind of took their own slant into reggae, but they also did hardcore music. It was very fucking hodgepodge of everything, and that's why it hits so well. I was gonna go somewhere else with that. Uh, oh, yeah. So yeah, let's take a look. So this is the I was gonna talk about the Spotify playlist that I had. So I rejoined Spotify. I missed it. I missed it. They do have good technology. It bums me out. Um, they need to get a little bit better on their PR front. Um, and they took down my stand-up album. And I was looking at him. My stand-up album had huge numbers, like much bigger than my music album. Um, my stand-up album is pure uncut joy. If anybody has any contacts over at Spotify, tell them to get my album back up, man. They're battling with my label. I don't know, but it's a good album. So it bums me out. But I'm gonna read off a couple of these tracks of this Joe Pera road trip. Well, first, The Light by Humble Pie. That's my new jam, man. I've been pumping Humble Pie again. I know I went through Black Coffee phase, but now there's this song called The Light, and this is during the Peter Frampton days. Now, Peter Frampton put out Peter Frampton Comes Alive, which is this like ultimate guitar god 70s live album that just rocks from beginning to end, and everybody had that album. It was kind of like you had Frampton Comes Alive, and you also had Steve Miller's Greatest Hits. Those are the kind of albums you just had from the 70s. But Humble Pie, you didn't you had to be super hip. But they were just hard rocking blues band. But The Light, check out The Light. Okay, we got Estimated Profit by Grateful Dead, another Humble Pie, Black Coffee, Basket Case by Green Day. This is the playlist that I was rocking out on the road with Joe Pera. This is called Love is Strange by Wings. Lively Up Your Dub. This is a Bob Marley and Wailers dub track of Lively Up Yourself. I love dub. I just sometimes don't like all the words. Just give me the bass line, man, and fuzz it out now and then. The National Anthem by Radiohead. Now, this has got one of the best bass lines of all time. Yeah, I mean, it's not Barney Miller, that's Barney Miller has one of the best bass lines ever. Barney Miller, and then Fugazi. Waiting Room. Those are my favorite bass lines right there. But then we got Funky for You, Nice and Smooth, some good hip hop right there. On the Radio, Crash Crew, one of my favorites. Run for the Roses by Jerry Garcia, his great like solo one. Tiny Sparks by Brendan Benson. He is in the band Raconteurs with Jack White. I like that album he did. For Real by Tom Petty. Should I just keep on reading? We talked about this Donovan song. I put on some Donovan. I got some JJ Cale. This JJ Cale, Ride Me High. That's a really good jam right there. You should check it out. And T-shirt by Migos. I really like that. And Will Do XXX Change remix by TV on the Radio. That's a favorite jam. Like that. Sometimes I just like the beat. The song's really good, but the beat is incredible and funky and out there. But man, driving back from Syracuse, it was like that perfect day. It was like Saturday, and the weather was literally like 87, and the sky was blue, and the clouds were perfect, and the trees were green. And I was just driving along for like hours, and it was just like perfect outside. Like, when you're driving, like everything's just like the weather's really good and the sky's really blue and and there's not much traffic. So you're kind of like, whoa, I'm on a planet, and I wasn't even high. Like it felt like I was on the moon for a while or another planet or in some type of cartoon. Mm, that is some good coffee right there. Um, so I do have some shows coming up that I'm excited about. June 26th at Littlefield, I'm doing my stand-up show. I'm hosting. And it's just a place where I get to work out, do some material, not do material, talk, whatever. Like I said, I haven't been going out. I worked on the music album and I worked on this podcast. So thank you for listening. Enjoy it. Enjoy some nice herb. I recommend in Brooklyn a great spot called Mr. Nice Guys. They take donations. But I'm also performing in Brooklyn at a venue called Littlefield on Sunday, June 26th. That's the end of the weekend. It's 8:30, and it's called Rob Cantrell and Super Friends. It's at 3635 Sackett Street, Brooklyn, New York. Littlefield is the venue, and it's called Rob Cantrell and Super Friends. It's Dave Hill. It's myself. I'm hosting. I'm going to do a bunch of material, bunch of time, keep it loosey goosey, work on. I just picked my nose. Sorry for the Patreon people. I'm going to keep it loosey goosey because I forgot I was on camera. That's what you get with the Patreon. You get the au natural. But I'm going to keep the show loosey goosey. I got some great guests: Dave Hill, who's an amazing comedian and guitarist, Joel Johnson, Reggie Conquest. It's going to be sick. So I'm looking forward to that show. And pumping that show up and getting it ready. And also laying low. I took a COVID test. I haven't caught COVID yet, but I do have a little bit of a deep throat. I'm not sure if I'm just smoking too much weed. That's the thing about smoking a lot of weed and COVID. You can like try not to think about it. But I did hear that it does block cannabis does block the COVID. And I could see that. I mean, I've talked about that on this podcast, but I don't want to put any misinformation out there, and I don't want to do anything like that. But I just think like how strong the herb is these days. Like, dude, the virus hits some of that, and it's like, whoa, it's hard to keep it going. Because the herb is really good out there. But this is like some outdoor grown. That's my move, is asking for outdoor grown cannabis, and then it's not going to be super duper strong. And it's going to be a little bit more au natural. I have been sleeping like a champ with this really good cannabis. And I'm just excited about the world opening up. It's just becoming a little bit more normal to say that I just drink coffee and smoke cannabis. Whereas other people have beers and whatnot. It's just, especially in the legal states and just in population in general, the times they are a changing. Bob Dylan in the house. Yeah, we were talking about Donovan, which is I've talked about him on this podcast a lot, but he was kind of like the early Bob Dylan, or he came out of England at the same time at Bob Dylan, just kind of like a singer songwriter, mystical. People kissed their asses artistically, and for good reason. That songs were good and the timing was right. And going against change, I think, is a lot of it. Is like, and to be a pacifist and to be an actual freak out in there in Mother Nature, you gotta go against the grain, in the sense of creative stuff, but I've been listening to a lot of Stick Figure and a lot of Kenny Rogers as well. Love will turn you around, turn you around. That's a song from this movie Six Pack. It's like this blue collar 70s movie about NASCAR racing that they played on HBO in my youth constantly. And that's kind of like during the after the Gambler fame of the 80s. Like the song The Gambler by Kenny Rogers is, arguably maybe one of the best country songs ever. And arguably one of the best songs ever. I put it up there with the Ace of Spades. Any show about gambling, something about gambling. Shout out Norm Macdonald, man. The Norm Macdonald special, like I started to watch it. And the only thing, it looks a lot like my Patreon. That's the only thing. He uses a microphone just like me, and he has headphones just like I do. So it's a little trippy to watch. And I could see that he was very like frail. And the demise is right around the corner. So it's like, yay. But shout out Norm, and I'm going to watch the rest of the special. His writing is so good, so I get a little mad at myself, writing style wise. But I think I'm growing out of all that, and now I'm just excited to write. I'm almost finished the Mel Brooks book. I'm at the tail end. Like I could tell I'm going downhill. I just finished, the Blazing Saddles chapter, past the producers chapter. So now he's going into his later movies. So I'm past halfway, and then you got a lot of index and stuff like that. Sorry for the burps. All I had was some dark chocolate almonds and a banana shake today. And then I'm at the tail end of this super duper coffee. But I also have some seltzer. I think I need some seltzer to settle the stomach down a little bit because the coffee's so good. And the herb got me a little wah, wah, wah. Oh, that's some good bubbles. That is some good bubbles. When it comes down to and I got these good face napkins, like if you got some good herb and you got some good coffee and you got some good bubbles, oh dog. And then you got some face wipes. But I got it from Ursula Major. These are like some high-end face wipes, essential face wipes. And they got all kinds of lubricants and cleanliness that get down in those funky pores. Because I got a cat, so I got cat on me and a little bit of bong resin at all times. So it's nice to have a face wipe now and then, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, the travel was good. Listen to my playlist a lot. Listen to some XM. A lot of the Tom Petty. For some reason, Tom Petty never gets old. You just keep on. Like, I don't know. Every time, that's definitely. I would love to hear what the numbers on the Alexa are with Tom Petty. How many people shot him out on that? It's almost like American background music. Rock and roll. Let's get to the point. Let's pack another one hitter and drink some more coffee down the road on the podcast. We'll get some other guests, but sometimes we'll just talk. We're gonna blow some weed and drink some coffee and some seltzer in between. Talking about music, talking about comedy. I've been drawing. I've been drawing some to calm my mind. The last 2 days, I meditated on the road and I swam laps. Oh man, I swam laps. Nobody was at the pool. The thing about the pool is at the hotel, you got to make sure there's no kids around. Like I like kids and all that. I got a family and all that, but on the road, no hotel. I like nobody around. I like having the hotel pool when nobody was around. And that's what happened um, at the Syracuse hotel. Nobody was at the hotel, and they had a great heated pool with like cushioned L couches and like LED lights in a big spacious bathroom to change and all the towels galore. And nobody was down there. I think it was COVID and it was like an off day, like a Thursday. It was like a Thursday morning. So nobody, and we were getting out of Dodge. So it was before 10 o'clock. So nobody was down there. Like I think they just opened it, and I got to just hang out in there for an hour. And I did like 20 minutes of breaststroke freestyle above the head, doggy paddle, mini strokes, because the pool was only like 10 feet long. So I'm doing like these, man, I'm doing laps, and it ends up I'm just doing like 4 or 5 strokes. I'm just like, if you're doing a doggy paddle, I'm just doing like 4 arfs. If you're doing breaststroke, I'm just doing 4 pizzas. 4, make a pizza and cut it. That's how you learn breaststroke, or frog style, that they call this in France. No, that's, I don't know if that's PC these days. But I do dig frogs, and I do dig France. I want to go there. I've been there once. I went to the Cannes Film Festival once, but I wasn't like in it. I was like definitely indie rocker, French skateboarder, DIY film school type vibe. Yeah, I went to the Cannes Film Festival. I believe it was like 2007, and I released a DVD. And I made like 2,000 copies of it. It's of a sold out performance that I did at the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco in 2003. And then it's also a performance at the Purple Onion. And then it's also a performance in LA at this like place called Dublin's. It's actually pretty sick. I should get it out. It's just hard for me to watch my early. I'm saying it's sick because Dublin's was like this huge comedy night. Like Jay-Z references Dublin's, like in LA in 2003. That was the place to be on Thursday night, and they had a comedy night. It was like this like cool like Irish bar, young bar, hip bar right on the Hollywood Strip. And but I did the comedy show there, and I taped it and I put it on the DVD. Because I had such a good set, but it was like a combination of all these good sets. And but I was only like 3 or 4 years in, so the material isn't all the way for like a full special. So that's what I put together, like this mini documentary. And I cut it up, and I actually showed it at a theater in San Francisco. I showed it in I remember I sold out a show in San Francisco, this little box theater. And then I think I showed it in New York, but I know I showed it in France, and at the Cannes Film Festival. It was like a makeshift apartment type theater, but and I passed it around everywhere after shows or whatever. It was only 2,000 of them, so they sold and got given away as promos. So they're out there, but I should go out there and find that and chop that up, get it on the reels. But I don't know. I don't know about social media. I like it. I love it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's the most healthy thing for people, but for artists and whatnot, it's the best thing to get your name out. I do love Eventbrite, and I do think that's the way to go. Once I do more shows out on the road, like I'm going to do more pop-up shows in cool spots. That's where I want to go. I want to go back to Boulder, or even more like off the beaten path, and do like Eventbrite shows in like stoner towns. Hit me up at contact@Rob Cantrell if you live in a community and you want the Cannabis Coffee Hour and then a little stand-up show. Let me know. And if you got a theater, and if we could sell some tickets out there, and we'll put it together. we'll get the coffee and we'll get the herb and we'll get the crowd, and we'll come up with a good little title of the show and keep it moving, keep it grooving. I want to do more music. I need to have musical guests, and I will have more musical guests. I've reached out, and I love talking to comedians, but I do think it starts to get to be inside baseball after a while. And people are kind of sick of, I get worried all the time with comedy. Like, are people getting sick of this shit? Because of all the drama and publicity and stuff like that. But people love the shit. SNL keeps on getting more popular. Dave Chappelle keeps on selling out shows. Netflix and HBO just keep on getting bigger. I still haven't watched Obi-Wan. I really do keep falling asleep, but I've been getting some great sleep. It's just, yeah, I've been trying to watch it in bed, and it does not work in bed. I think I got to do it during the day, and then I feel bad watching TV during the day. Like, I just don't do that type of shit, even though it is a part of my job is TVs, and I shouldn't feel guilty, but I still do. I'm like, I should be writing, or I should be writing a show. And I am getting better with writing. But this week, yeah, coming off the road, like, I don't know, like, I didn't really exercise. There was part of my mouth that hurt. Like, it was off. And I think it's all because I haven't been like meditating and stretching. Like, I'm off my little routine. But I think routines get dull and then you can fade away. So it's kind of like you got to be a little bit more natural with it, because as much as I'm like, oh, I need to be doing this, I don't need to be giving myself a guilt trip about not doing it, I need to be like, yo, sometimes you got to take a little break, and then you're going to get back to it naturally. But I do like getting this podcast done. I'm getting this podcast done a little bit early. I love the option of being able to do a solo podcast and just like get my stuff out there, talk about some of the gigs that I got coming up. Check out the music, the the Caffeinated Dope Rhymes album is on Spotify right now. I'm going to tweet that out right after I finish this podcast. That will be official tweet. Tweets have gotten official. You can't like half-ass a tweet or it just sits there. I've got some sitting there tweets out there. Somebody go over and like those. But no, you shouldn't treat it like that. That's the other thing. With these type of things with social media, like, you just got to throw it out there and not even think about it. Um, yeah, so yeah, check out the Caffeinated Dope Rhymes. I'm gonna put out a couple more music videos. I do like doing the editing. Like, I get bummed out, like, oh, I gotta do some work, or oh, I gotta self-motivate to do that. But I always have these like little projects of either video or drawing or doodling, not even for money. Like, I really do want to take the money equation out of it and just go towards the love and the cannabis and the coffee, and not really think about it too much. Like, that's what I love about this podcast and the spontaneity of it. But also, I need to get a little bit more disciplined on some of the bits that we're going to talk about. Maybe I should have something prepared. But my Spotify playlist, that's what I wrote about. Oh, Wandering by Widespread Panic, Life of Illusion. This is from the Joe Pera road trip. Road trip playlist. So Woodstock's Dream. Check that out, man. That's an instrumental. That is a good one. Oh, here's the Donovan tune. Ricky Tikki TV. And then Parquet Court's Tenderness. That's a great tune. And then Beat Beat by the band Love. And I Don't Want to Be Blind by Turnstile. Oh man, we could talk playlists all day. But the only thing is yeah, I hope Spotify gets their shit together and starts paying people a little bit better and spreading the love a little bit more around. But the app does work. That's the only thing. People go with what works. I'm taping on Zoom, but I have a lot of trouble with Zoom. I'm not really that psyched on it. I'm not really that psyched on sticking with Zoom. And then also Podbean. That's the guys who host my podcast, and I don't get the right numbers. I mean, they give me the right numbers, but they're not, I don't know. The breakdown of it, it just feels, I think maybe I have to upgrade or maybe go to a different, I need to talk to somebody that's like into technology a little bit more. If you're interested in producing this podcast, you can get at me if you're like super tech podcast engineer wizard and don't feel like being on the mic and jumping on a brand that is growing in very fertile ground and can't stop, won't stop, Puff Daddy attitude. Yeah, hit me up at contact@Rob Cantrell. We'll make hits. Because this podcast, I get shout outs on the street on it, and then I have some dispensaries that want to be on it. If you're looking for a sponsorship, hit me up at contact@RobCantrell.com. And we'll work it out. And we're going to do some samples. We're going to do some reviews as cannabis becomes more and more legal in the New York area. But I want to make this a travel podcast as well as a come together podcast, a powwow, a puff and pass. I haven't been rolling joints, but I saw this at the dispensary, these little mini joints covered in keef, and I was like, whoa, those look badass. But they look really hella stinky. That's the only thing about joints is like, the roach is just fucking, it smells more than just the weed itself. It's the funk. So yeah, you got to always be in control of your roaches. Definitely double bag them or, smoke them. And then the old school way was if you didn't have the filter, you just eat the roach, which you can digest cannabis, which is funny. It's the healthiest cigarette that's out there. I'm going to go for a walk after this. Maybe that will kickstart my whole meditation process. But yeah, driving a lot. I was just tired. I think I was just tired. I did drive all the way to Buffalo and back, through in Syracuse in there, but and doing a bunch of comedy shows and swimming laps in a techno pool. So yeah, it's been fun. This jet fuel's great. Great cannabis. I'm having some great coffee. I'm at the tail end of the Chemex. Oh, the last sip of the Brazilian bean from Brooklyn Lab. They're a great bag of coffee. Brooklyn Lab, it's like $11. I think like the price point isn't like $15, $16, $17. What was I thinking? Like there's a bunch that are like $22, $23. And I like really good coffee. But this Brooklyn Lab, that's a good coffee at a good price point. Definitely check them out. check out Mr. Nice Guys in Park Slope. Great new kind of dispensary. Keep it on the low. Um, let's see. Yeah, been feeding my plants. I am not growing cannabis, not yet. I travel a lot, and I got a cat. So I got a lot out on my plate right now. And I'm writing. I'm gonna put out a new special, a new stand-up special, and I also want to have a new stand-up album, audio wise, to go with it. So I'm looking at, but I've recorded a couple, and then you throw in COVID-19. So I'm a little foggy and on this. I don't have COVID-19, but that hideout time. So I'm a little foggy what material I have recorded and what I have not. And I haven't really done anything like on television stand-up wise, besides a few like late night, like one late nights, two late night sets, and Last Comic Standing. And the rest has been like acting gigs lately. So I want to get like a special out there. So I'm going over my old material, but it's so hard to listen to yourself. I don't mind listening to this podcast for a minute, but my stand-up, it's a little bit brutal. And also, but it's work. So it's like you're kind of wrestling with your ego and but also, your will to do a good job. And that's the gig, is try to do a good job. I hope you're I think I'm doing a good job on this podcast. I'm definitely doing a good job on keeping them up to date and doing them weekly. I'm so glad that I'm flexible enough to do a solo one, because booking people, I don't want to book just anybody, and I don't want to pressure anybody. I love having it happen naturally, but I also would love maybe a producer to line up the guests, because that definitely takes over 3 emails to line up guests. And sometimes that third email is hard to hit. But with the promoter, you can get that done like lickety split. But I also like doing it DIY, hardcore to the bone. Definitely check out Turnstile, my favorite. I've been they're great on the road trip, but they're a little aggressive and loud. So it's nice when you're like alone and jacked up on coffee and have like 5 hours to drive. Then it definitely can help that out. It could definitely be the jet fuel. Some aggressive rock music. It's nice to listen to aggressive rock music. It's nice to listen to lo-fi hip hop. It's nice to listen to nothing. It's nice to listen to the birds. What have I been listening to? My cat purring. I've been enjoying that. The birds, yeah, in the morning, I dig that. And I live in the city, but there's a bunch of trees back there. So the birds are out there. They're around. Birds are always around, right? But I'll catch you around. I think I'm going to finish it up. I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch up with you guys later. Peace and love. I'm out.
discovering truth is not a question of intelligence. It's intelligence, no intellectual ability or intellectual intelligence. Because if it were, then there's so many people with really sharp intellects. You know, they have such skill at comprehending or going to the point. So if that was all that it took, there'd be many Buddhas who came through the intellectual artery or vein, but it's not like that. discovering truth is not a question of intelligence. It's intelligence, no intellectual ability or intellectual intelligence at all. Because if it were, I mean, there's so many people with really sharp intellects, you know. They have such skill at comprehending or going to the point. So if that was all that it took, there'd be many Buddhas who came to the intellectual artery or vein. But it's not like that.